Hello, welcome to Liz Rocks and Stuff. I'm Liz. It's time for episode 70 of What's in My Tumbler, and this is take 3 for voiceover this week. I don't know what is up with me and these voiceovers. They don't want to work. But anyway, we're starting out with the dendritic opal. This is in stage 3, moving into stage 4, and it's looking great so far. Um, just a heads up, I don't have anything to ramble about this week, so I'm probably just going to be random in the things that I talk about. So, no particular topic that I feel like discussing this week. But, alright, so we're going to put the opal in. Dendritic opal, by the way, is just opal that has those black veins through it. I forget what they are composed of, but it is regular opal with some stuff added into it to be very not scientific and not correct about it. I've never tumbled opal before. I did a Girasol opal, which I think is a type of moonstone, and that turned out great. So I have hope that this dendritic opal will turn out really nicely. I love the contrast with the white and the black. I think it's going to be amazing. So did a ivory soap bath, and then we're going to do stage 4. So the first thing we do is do an inspection, make sure nothing's chipped or broken as per usual. And again, I don't know why I've been having this issue lately, but when I do my afternoon rinsing, my soap rinses, my ground just does not absorb anything at that point. I think it's just waterlogged from the morning. So I actually ended up having to move my entire setup for the Amethyst and the Dumortierite because it was just getting flooded and that soap was not washing away. But anyway, we're going to do a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of polish, and then this is ready to go on the tumbler for a week, and hopefully it will be nice and pretty and shiny next week. I'm very excited. And now we're moving on into the Meg, my Ocean Jasper, Picture Jasper, Sci-Fi Jasper, all mixed together. This is currently still in stage 1, and I'm going to say, I had a commenter a couple of weeks ago that mentioned that when there's about 15 to 20% of media in stage 1, that they've noticed there less of the grid is getting used. And I've got to say 100% agree. I saw it again with this batch right here. It had been happening with the Dumortierite. It is now happening again with this Jasper. Now, that's not to say that this batch didn't work. It absolutely did do some grinding. And some rocks were now ready to move on that weren't previously ready. So it does work. Just maybe if you have a lot of media in stage 1, don't use as much grit. I don't know. I'll have to try that and see if that works. So I got to say, I hadn't noticed that before, but it was pointed out to me, and I have to completely agree that absolutely does happen. That if you have a lot of media in stage 1, your grit's not going to get used up as much. So I have enough ready for a stage 2 barrel. In fact, I had too much. So when I filled that up, it was like 90% full. So I went down, I dug down, and I pulled out a big piece of ocean jasper. And that allowed it to be at a good level. So I'm not worried about this being too full moving on. So we're going to put this in an ivory bath, and you will see that it absolutely does need it. And part of that reason that it needed the bath is because I had media in there and too much grit. So there is a lot of grit just hanging out in my rocks. So that's why I don't always do a bath between 1 and 2. When I do, it's because I have reason to believe that there's still a lot of grit stuck in these rocks. So I did know that there was still a lot of grit here, so I went ahead and did it, and you could see that foam was just gray, which meant it really did need an ivory bath, an ivory soap bath. So we're going to get these, again, I'd start doing an inspection, then I remember that these are going into stage 2, so I don't really need to look at them because if they had chips or cracks, they wouldn't be ready for stage 2. So, gonna get those filled up, put in a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of stage 2, and then these are ready to go. And I do want to say that in the mornings, I tend to do the first rinses first thing in the morning, but I'm having to push them back later and later because it's so dark outside now that my ivory soap baths are getting shorter and shorter because I have to, if I'm going to get editing and stuff done, I have to have them done by a certain time of day. And so my ivory soap baths are not getting as long as they used to be, but they still seem to be working. So now this is Amethyst. Amethyst is currently in stage 2, moving into stage 3. And It's looking good. Now, I've mentioned it before, amethyst tends to be a lot more fragile in my experience. The most of the rocks that I've had that have broken after stage 3 or 4 have been amethyst. So I'm going to make sure that these are well cushioned, that they are not, that there is not too little or too much in this barrel. So I added some media to this to make sure that it has enough cushioning and doesn't get chipped or broken later, hopefully. So then we're going to do an ivory soap bath with the amethyst. And it's going to move on into stage 3 this week. So this is moving along quite nicely. And I also thought I was running low on stage 1 grit, so I went and I bought like 10 pounds of stage 1 grit because I was like, I'm going to buy it. I'm never going to have to use it again or buy it for a while. And then none of my barrels needed stage 1 this week. So, and then on top of that, I found a 3 pounds of stage 1 grit that I had hanging out somewhere and had forgotten about. So I got enough stage 1 for a while. Hopefully I'll actually get to use it. Anyway, so now we're sorting this amethyst, making sure that nothing is chipped or broken. Luckily, I don't find anything. Hopefully it continues to be that way. So now we're going to add that media back in to make sure that it has enough cushioning. Cushioning does a few things. It's going to keep things from banging around too much and getting broken. It also keeps things from getting bruised too much. So if you finish a tumble and you find that you've got a lot of like almost a white haze or some like little fine cracks in your rocks, that's generally called bruising. And you can get rid of it by sending it back through to the beginning and tumbling it in stage 1 until those cracks come out and doing it all again. But you can prevent it by making sure that you have enough filler in your barrels. And if you want an example, you can go look at my Ruby Rose batch that went through once and was absolutely bruised. Everything was awful, and I went and sent it back, and it improved greatly. Not everything did, but it improved greatly by redoing it. So now we have, this is a mixed batch. It's about half Dumortierite and then half mixed rocks. I'm curious how this is going to turn out because, I mean, I use mixed rocks all the time as filler. It's one of my favorite things to do because at the end I still get a pretty rock most of the time. But mixed batches of rocks can be a mixed bag in results because if you have mixed hardnesses, then your softer rocks are going to get beat up by your bigger rocks. By the way, I put in filler and then I put in too much, so I poured some out, or I took some out, and then I had to adjust the water level. And then I forgot to put the seal on the barrel before I put the lid on. It was a whole comedy of errors going on with this. And I forgot completely what I was talking about. Oh, mixed rocks. So yeah, but in this box, there are some softer rocks, but I'm mostly focusing on the Dumortierite, which is a 7. It's a harder rock. I don't think there's anything in here that's harder than the Dumortierite, so the Dumortierite should be fine. It might beat up some other rocks. It might be the bully in the batch, but it should be fine in the end. So we'll see if I'm right. That's my prediction, is that most things in this batch should be fine. The Dalmatian jasper might not shine up. There might be a couple of other rocks in here that don't get shiny, but most things in here I think are about a 6 or a 7, so they should be fine. There are a lot of people that will only tumble like rocks together. There are a lot of people that will only tumble same hardnesses together, and there are merits to doing that. I'm not going to say that you can't or shouldn't do that. That's absolutely probably the right way to do things. I just don't like to do that. It's not exciting. So I like to do mixed batches. So this is going to be a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of stage 4, and these are going to be ready to move on for another week. So I guess I had a couple little mini rants and tangents this week. You know, that's just me. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you back next week.